Welcome, everyone, to Diversified, where our mission is to have you live in a life filled with wealth, health, and happiness. Today, we have a very special guest, one of our own, Mike Horwath, who you may recognize or have seen his name or face or videos. He's our Chief Investment Officer at Diversified. As our CIO, Mike is the head of our internal investment committee and is responsible for the investment direction of our firm. He is a CFA charter holder and holds several licenses, including FINRA Series 6, 63, and 65. It's a mouthful. How you doing, Mike?
We're good. We're good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's impart some of your wisdom on these fine folks today, shall we?
Sounds good.
All right, let's jump right out of the gate. So you have been in this role for many years. You have quite a laundry list of resume and expertise that we appreciate here, and a interesting perspective that we don't always get to see, or most people don't get to see, as you manage many portfolios and billions of dollars. But let's distill this down to a very simple question, Mike. What do you find are the most common investment mistakes you see people make?
Yeah, I would say you could probably categorize them into two main things, right? One being no foundation. You know, it all starts with the financial plan, but when we talk about our investment philosophy, the most basic first level of everything is you have to have a foundation, right? You have a foundation of what we're doing and why. And you find just many investors don't even have that, right? There's no starting place, right? Of understanding what we're doing, what the diversification moniker means, what risk even is. That's a challenge, right? And not having the basic foundation of what you're trying to do with your portfolio, it's a huge mistake because everything should be built off of that, right? If you have a bad foundation, just with anything else in life, right, it's just going to be very difficult to build off of that. So most investors don't have a good solid foundation for where to start. And second is just bad behavior. There have been hundreds and thousands probably of articles, plenty of books written on behavioral finance, and just the biases that we have as humans. We're emotional creatures. It just is what it is. And when it comes to investing, it brings out sometimes the worst in us. And what you find is that behavior is one of the key issues when it comes to investing and mistakes, because you think about hurting, right? When you see something working, everybody just flocks to it regardless of why it's working or what it even means. Or overconfidence. Hey, I'm better than you. I know more than you, or I know more than the market, which is one of the most efficient things in the world. Those behavioral biases and behavioral mistakes are just, they kill you in the world of investing, and it's something we see all the time.
Yeah, and I can speak from my side. I think they're both great points, right? One is that if you don't have a plan, how are you going to navigate all markets? You need a plan that you can fall back on. It doesn't have to be the best plan. It's just a philosophy that you're going to abide by and not waver based on what's going on in the news cycle. And the other, for sure, I'm a big fan of sort of behavioral finance. And to your point, people are hardwired and to fight or flight and these natural instincts, but they don't work in investing. Some of these hardwired things, and it really takes a coach or some self-observance and discipline to understand that. So okay, so on the tail of that, what do you think investors can look at on their own to improve their investments?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, if you're going to improve or have a starting place, just educate yourself. I think an educated investor, it's something, if when we talk about the different things that we do at Diversified, one of the last things, which I guess you can also talk about, one of the first things is education, right? We communicate a lot, we're very transparent, but we want to educate. And some people couldn't care less, some people love it. But the reason we do it is that educated investors will make better decisions. So as an investor, the best thing you can do is educate yourself. For example, if you think about, there are a lot of good books. I don't want to just pick a couple, but I will. The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel, is a great one because it ties into the behavioral side of what we do. And it just breaks down simple concepts of why they are what they are. So The Psychology of Money is a great book to read. Stocks for the Long Run, Jeremy Siegel, another great book. I think stocks are a word to people. But the reason why stocks work over time, there's a fundamental backing, understanding what they are, what people mean by long-term performance of the stock market. And we're not talking 5, 10, we're not even talking decades, we're talking centuries. If you try to, go back in time to really understand over the long term of what that means of owning stocks, it just helps you get that perspective. So the best thing you can do for as an investor is just educate yourself or rely on those who are educated in this world to eliminate the mistakes that we just spoke about in the last conversation.
Yeah, makes all the sense in the world. So you're in charge of managing quite a bit of money for our clients, and what have you found is the biggest benefit to outsourcing investments to a professional team such as ours and you and your highly qualified team internally?
Yeah, well, I think it's a couple things. If you just start with the basic of what I just said, we do spend time here and we are educated in this space, and this is our job. 2, I'm going to mention it shortly, but do what you enjoy doing and delegate the rest. Well, we enjoy doing this, so delegate it to us. But when you talk about what we have, for firms like Diversified and other firms, the key is it's institutional resources, institutional pricing, right? What we do from access to investments and the research. And it comes back to having a process, having a plan, having a philosophy that backs everything that you do. It's what we live by. It's what we have to live by. Our job at Diversified is to kind of oversee everything on a daily basis. My team, that's what we do. And you have your own personal CFO, CIO, whatever you want to call it, in my team from an investment perspective. So, by delegating it to a team that's educated, that loves this world, that cares about it and cares about the success of our clients, along with the access that we have to institutional resources and pricing and things of that nature, that's why you would want to delegate it to somebody like Diversified.
Makes total sense, and it's what I've experienced through the years with our clients as well. So, okay, you create models here at Diversified, and you're a big proponent of model management, and as am I. What do you look and your team to prioritize when creating models? How do you go about it? What's the sort of hierarchy or prioritization, if you will?
Yeah, and it's when you're thinking about creating investment strategies and what you're trying to do, to me, the best place to start is just to figure out who you are, right? I don't think people, when they invest, they spend enough time understanding who they are and what they're trying to do and what they're good at. We know who we are, we know what we're trying to do, and we have a process that's built to work around that. You can't be good at everything. You have to synthesize that down and figure out what you're good at, what you want to control. And within our strategies, that's what we focus on. We focus on having a foundation for what our core beliefs are, creating that process around it, right, of how we're going to access things, whether it be more in an active or a passive approach. Are we going to use individual securities? Are we going to use pooled investment vehicles? How are we going to do this? How are we going to communicate that to our clients, right? All of these little things, but it all starts with knowing who you are and what you want to control. I think people don't realize that decision fatigue is a major issue in our world, where when you make 4,000 decisions in a portfolio, you're going to get some wrong. So the best thing you can do is to synthesize that down and know who you are, know what decisions you want to make, and then build a process and a philosophy around making them in the most optimal way. And really, within our portfolios, I always tell the team internally that no change and deciding to not make a change is still a decision. And it's a decision that, when you go back to decision fatigue, have a purpose and have a solid rationale for the decisions that you make. And sometimes being patient, sometimes not just making a change for the argument of making a change is an important thing. And it all ties back to, you just have to have a philosophy and a process around what you're trying to do. And I think that's really what we spend our time on. It's making sure that we're following that process and that, we're never making a change for the sake of making changes. It just doesn't work.
So it's really understanding what you're good at and really good at, and focusing your time there, and then bringing on experts or resources to fill the gaps, essentially, which I think is
Yep.
brilliant in its simplicity, if you will. So, okay, last couple of questions to bring us home here, which is, first of all, we're passionate here about at Diversified. I like to ask this question a lot about promoting not just wealth, not just health, but also happiness. What advice do you have from your perspective, Mike, as a CIO and executive of our organization, and have seen a lot and spoken to a lot of people? So what advice do you have that will help others find their own happiness, in your opinion?
Yeah, I'll give two sides to this. First, I mentioned it earlier. Spend time doing what you enjoy and delegate the rest. Spending time doing things you just hate is just going to make you unhappy. And look, if you don't know what you enjoy, or you don't know if what you enjoy and spending the time there and delegating the rest is a feasible plan moving forward, I know some good financial planners who can kind of help you figure that out. So that's one, right? Spend the time doing what you enjoy doing and just stop doing the rest. Two, selfishly, in the world of money and wealth, look at your investments and look at wealth as I heard this the other day, it was great, as a vaccine rather than a performance enhancing drug, right? Our job from a planning and from an investment perspective is to, similar to a vaccine, prevent misery, right? To prevent the worst case scenarios, and to help prevent those types of downside potentials that could happen, right? From a lack of planning or lack of saving or a lack of good investment management, right? But just because you have wealth is not just going to supercharge your happiness. You have to commit the time with our planners or with your family to figure out, well, you have all that plan, you have all the investments lined up, you have delegated everything, but how do you then translate that into something that's going to make you happy? And you can't look at the wealth side of it as this big performance enhancing drug. It's got to be viewed from that perspective. So I think those are the main things that I would say from a happiness perspective, especially around the money side and the wealth side that we're involved with.
Yeah, I love it. And words to live by. So, okay, as always, final question is here, and it always goes the same way, Mike, which and that is, leave us all with one message, one tidbit, one thing you want everyone to remember from today's brief interview that you think is a lesson to be learned, or you want them to remember most.
I firmly believe that an educated investor will just make better decisions. A lot of times the decision-making process is flawed. We're biased individuals, but the best thing we can do as individuals and investors is to educate ourselves on the why. Why do things work the way they do? And by doing so, we can eliminate so many of the mistakes that we see over time, right? Whether it be those behavioral mistakes of just not understanding it, and it creates discomfort. There's a reason why you see people like Warren Buffett, and it's just, part of it is it's an experience thing, but they're so well educated in this world. When things are up and they're down, there's just no panic, right? There's an understanding of why and what will need to happen on the other side of things. So by educating yourself, across, and this probably applies to really anything in life, but especially in our world too, it's educating yourself on the whys behind everything, and you will make better decisions, more rational decisions, and just be a better investor over the long term.
I love it. Words to live by, right? And I've seen it as well. Education really goes a long way when it comes to especially complex things like your investment portfolio. So thank you, Mike, for joining us as always. A ton of information, very valuable, as hopefully everyone watching this can see. He is not only qualified, but insightful, and really has a good grasp on our company's finances and portfolios. But if you want to stay educated and learn more, he sends a weekly email to our clients on what's happening the week before markets. We talk about monthly education videos. He does quarterly newsletters and investment updates. So no shortage of information and analysis and education coming from Mike. So I hope you enjoy it. As always, Mike, thank you very much for joining us. We are honored to have you as part of our organization and our leadership team. And for everyone watching, hope you enjoyed it. As always, I'm Andrew Rosen, President of Diversified. Stay wealthy, stay healthy, and stay happy. Take care.